Hi, I'm Becky. Thanks for joining us again in the Hillbilly Kitchen. And welcome to our series of breakfast videos. On this video, we're going to be making biscuits with oil. And I use grapeseed oil. You can use grapeseed oil or olive oil, or you can use corn oil if you want. I would not, because chances are it's GMO'd. And I know it's impossible to get all the GMOs out of your diet, but you at least don't have to go looking for them. Any kind of natural or organic oil is fine. I choose grapeseed oil because my husband is diabetic, and it has a lot of omega-3s and omega-6s in it and vitamin E, which kind of helps rebuild some of his damaged nerves. Now, the secret to making biscuits is in how you mix it. And it's not hard at all. There's some things you should know about biscuits. You don't want to make way more than what you need, because it's not like bread that you buy in a store. You can't toss it up in your cabinet and then use it for a week, because they go bad in just a couple of days. Now, they can be frozen, but it's really not that hard to make them, so I always just make them fresh. The basic biscuit recipe is 2 cups of self-rising flour, and I do use unbleached. It's a little more healthy. 1/3 cup of oil and 3/4 cup of milk. That makes 10 to 12 good-sized biscuits. And since I'm only making them for my husband and they don't store well, I'm going to cut that recipe in half. If you're making breakfast for a dozen people, you're going to want to double it. But we're going to start by preheating our oven to 415, and depending on your oven, you may have to adjust this up or down about 15 degrees in order to keep your biscuits from burning. Now, oil biscuits are much easier to mix than biscuits with a solid grease, like shortening or Crisco or something. I use butter when I make them with a solid grease, because butter is natural. And again, like I said, there's no need to go looking for bad stuff in our diet. There's plenty of it out there. We're going to start these biscuits just by pouring our oil and our milk in the bowl. Very simple. Stir it just a little bit, and then add in your flour. And you can add it all in at one time. And I don't measure exact. And you just want to stir this up until all the flour is mixed in the oil, kind of working your way around the edges of the bowl. It does not take but just a minute. And you'll notice what I've got under here to keep the mess from getting everywhere, because biscuits are a little bit messy, is just a piece of wax paper. And I love wax paper. It's great. It's like less than $1.25 a roll at Walmart, and it'll save you from so much cleanup. Okay. See, it's almost mixed already. Your dough is going to be sticky, but you want it pretty stiff. And if it's too runny, you may have to add just a tiny bit more flour, which is not a big deal, but this looks pretty good. That's about how you want it there. Okay, I'm going to take just a little more flour, and I'm going to sprinkle it out here on my wax paper. You can imagine the mess this would make if you didn't have wax paper. My granny used to have a paper bag that she used, and she used the same paper bag, far as I know, my whole life. She would fold it up when she was done, and then just fold it back out the next morning and do her biscuits on it. I guess that way she didn't waste any flour at all. Okay, just get a little flour on your hands and get this off the spoon. case your mama didn't tell you, before you make biscuits, wash your hands. Now, I'm not going to play with this dough a whole lot, because if you play with it too much, it makes your biscuits hard. But you'll see I'm folding it over a few times and getting some of that flour on it. That'll kind of give you some layers in your biscuits. Just a few times. And that also helps stiffen it up a little bit. And I've got 100 fancy biscuit cutters, but I've used for years, this is just a tomato paste can, and it makes biscuits about the size we like around here, so that's what I use. And you just cut your biscuits out. Make sure you've got a little flour on the bottom. If you don't have any grease or anything in your pan, just set your biscuits in there. Fold this up again and make a few more biscuits here. See the layers in them there. You do want to make sure your biscuits are pretty firm. Like you can see, these are sticking together, they're not running. If your dough is too runny, they'll really spread out on your pan, and then they'll be super thin, and that doesn't make for a real good biscuit. Alright, this last one here, we'll just fold him up and put him on there. Okay. Now, like I said, I cut that recipe in half, so I ended up with 5 biscuits. Normally you get about a dozen biscuits with the 2 cups of flour and 3/4 cup of milk and 1/3 cup of oil. And you see how simple that is. When the oven gets preheated, we're going to stick them in and let them bake for about 15 minutes. Keep an eye on them, you don't want to burn them. So we'll be back in 15 minutes to take them out of the oven. Okay, our biscuits have been in the oven for 15 minutes now. You can see they are lightly brown. As soon as you take them out of the oven, you want to take a stick of salted butter and just rub it all over the top of them. This is for both texture and taste. I usually go over them all 2 times like this, because it does take just a second for the butter to start melting, but the hot biscuits melt it pretty good. And you want to make sure you get them all covered good. Alright. Now you can see these biscuits are thick, they are soft, and they are delicious. Thanks for joining us again in the Hillbilly Kitchen. Be sure to check out our whole series of country breakfast videos, and don't forget to click like and subscribe.